Fleetmaster Zarek stood frozen before the data display, his narrow eyes scanning the impossible numbers. His vessel, the Starseer, had been charting unclaimed regions for nearly 3 months. Their mission: explore the outer fringes. Their discovery: something utterly inexplicable. "Sir, anomalous signals detected off our port side," reported Lieutenant Hera, her voice tight with disbelief. She gestured toward a cluster of erratic spikes on the screen. "Energy outputs are well beyond galactic Council norms. Possibly pre-contact tech or something much older." Zarek stroked the silver filaments on his jaw. He was a Varellan lithe, long-limbed, his crimson skin patterned with evolutionary etchings of wisdom. His kind had traversed the stars for over 1,000 standard years. They understood what civilized systems should look like. This wasn't it. "How close are we to the null sector?" Zarek asked. "We just crossed into it, sir," Hera responded. The null sector, infamous and vast, had remained a lifeless mystery in galactic records. No communications, no transits. A void devoid of reason. Most dismissed it as a dead zone. But the Starseers. Scans were saying otherwise. "Fleetmaster, you should see this," called Dr. Sylvie, their chief xenohistorian. Her emerald tendrils danced as she worked her console furiously. "There are structures out there, large ones, orbiting a blue-green terrestrial planet." Zarek strode across the command deck. What he saw on Sylvie's screen punched the breath. From his lungs, gargantuan metal constructs hung in orbit like silent sentinels. Some ringed the planet. Others extended into the void like vast spires. "How large are these?" He breathed. "The largest measures over 80 kilometers in length." Sylvie whispered. "Larger than any known orbital infrastructure in our records. Nothing we've ever seen comes close." Zarek's stomach turned. The Galactic Council encompassed over 100 advanced civilizations. They had megastructures and moonbreakers. But this defied everything. "Are they functional?" he asked. "Unlikely. Scans suggest centuries of dormancy, no active energy fields. But the engineering," she paused, eyes wide. "I can't even begin to fathom how they were built." Zarek ordered the Starseer closer. As they neared the mysterious world, details sharpened. The constructs bore the wounds of time-gaping breaches, scorched plating, and a blanket of cosmic debris. Yet even in decay, they radiated terrifying grandeur. "Planet has breathable atmosphere," noted pilot Commander Varn. "Water bodies, continental landmasses, but no active settlements." "No settlements?" Zarek asked, incredulous. "None." "Detected. Then who built these?" "Fleetmaster," Sylvie called again. "I found markings glyphs etched into the ancient plating. Some match scripts found in the earliest myths of multiple worlds." Zarek's heart thudded. "What do they say?" Sylvie turned toward him slowly, voice barely a whisper. "They spell a name from legend." He stared at her. "Humans." She said. The command deck fell into an eerie silence. Everyone aboard had heard of the mythical species. Humans, galactic phantoms, whispered in the dark. Warriors unmatched. Ghosts of apocalyptic war. Architects of fear. "That's impossible." Zarek said. "Humans were stories. Warnings for children." "And yet," Sylvie gestured to the screen, "these constructs are real. This world is real. And those glyphs? They claim this as humanity's home." Zarek swallowed. "How long ago?" "If I'm reading the timeline correctly, they vanished 300 cycles ago." He looked again at the colossal remains of humanity's works. If the legends held truth, even in fragments, then the galaxy's most feared warriors may not be extinct. They may just be hiding beneath the surface of the ancient world. Klaxons shrieked. Sirens wailed through once dead corridors. Dusty consoles blinked to life. Red alerts flashed in languages long forgotten. Captain Elias Ward choked on his mouthful of synth brew and dropped the metal mug, its contents splashing across the command. Floor of Deep Earth Bastion 9 known once as Fort Caldera. What's the status? He barked, racing into the Ops Center. Sergeant Dana Quinn looked up from a console lit with scrolling red data. We have contact. Orbital sensors picked up a foreign vessel, non-human. Ward's breath caught. 3 centuries they'd lived. In silence. Buried deep. Hidden. After the last contact war, Earth had burned. The invaders lost, but not without cost. Entire cities obliterated. Ecosystems collapsed. Billions dead. So the survivors decided, disappear. Let the stars believe they'd perished. No hostiles? Ward asked. Just one ship. Research class. Configuration. Ward moved to the master console. His fingers hit the all call. Attention, all personnel. This is Captain Ward. Remain calm. Maintain lockdown. Military report to command posts immediately. Across the subterranean megacity. Sirens echoed and lights strobed. Soldiers filed into formation, uncertain but alert. Combat training was doctrine, but few had ever drawn live weapons. Contact President Corrin. Ward instructed his lieutenant, Miles Wren. Also, initiate Protocol Ember. Wake the old fleet. Wren's jaw dropped. Sir, those ships have been cold for centuries. Then start now, Ward replied. An hour later, President Eleanor Corrin appeared via secure link from New Tranquility, the capital city carved miles below Earth's crust. What's the situation? She asked, her lined face solemn. 1 alien science ship. In orbit. Scanning, Ward replied. Corrin was silent a moment. After all these years. Yes, ma'am, they've found us. Then prepare. If they're friendly, good. If not, I understand. Shipyard crews already moving. Miles Wren led teams down to the old hangar's colossal vaults of stone and steel, buried deeper than most cities. In their shadows sat warships hulking, dormant giants of the old wars. They bore names like Hawk's Wrath, Vigilant Storm, and Eclipse of Dawn. But the largest of all was USS Horizon, mothballed for 300 years. Come on, baby, Wren muttered, fingers flying across ancient control boards. Slowly, lights flickered. Generators purred. The ship awoke. Across Earth's subterranean cities, similar stories unfolded. Data feeds showed the alien vessel scanning, probing, trying to find life. They're going to detect us, Quinn said to Ward. Ward stared at the incoming data. Maybe. That was okay. Maybe it was time to remind the galaxy who humans really were. Commander Era stepped cautiously onto the surface of the forgotten world. The atmosphere was breathable, but heavy with a strange electric tingle. Around her, a team of 6 Varellan scientists and soldiers moved slowly, scanning, recording, and staying alert. Dr. Sylvie checked her bioscanner. Everything reads as habitable. But there's no trace of active settlements, no signs of industry. Just forest, fields, and ruins. The landscape was deceiving. Above them, those massive orbital superstructures still loomed in silent testimony to a civilization that once reshaped the stars. But down here, just wind and silence. Spread out, Era ordered. We're not here to camp. I want every anomaly recorded. The team obeyed. They split into pairs and started combing the terrain. Some followed ancient pathways overgrown with moss. Others climbed grassy hills that may have once been launch sites or outposts. Everything felt strange normal, yet deeply wrong. Then Sylvie called out, her voice sharp with excitement. Commander, over here. Era jogged over to where Sylvie stood near a large mound. At first glance, it looked like a hill. But as Era approached, she saw unnatural angles buried beneath the overgrowth steel edges. Seams, weathered panels barely poking through the soil. This isn't a hill, Sylvie whispered. It's a structure. Some kind of bunker or facility. Maybe an old command post. They were clearing moss from a sealed door when the voice rang out, cutting the air like a blade. Hands where we can see them, now. Every Varellan froze. 5 armored figures emerged from the tree line, weapons drawn and aimed. Their armor was dark gray, matte finished, and heavily reinforced. None of the aliens had seen this design before. The figures were smaller than the Varellans, but stockier, dense with muscle and menace. Even their stances projected threat. "We're peaceful explorers," Era called, raising her hands slowly. "We mean no harm." The armored figures said nothing. One of them tapped a device on his wrist and murmured something in a tongue none of the Varellans understood. More humans stepped from the shadows, perfectly camouflaged. They had been surrounded without anyone realizing it. Era's heart raced. These beings were no myth. They were disciplined, tactical, and deeply dangerous. Then one of them removed their helmet. The face was smooth-skinned, pale, with short hair and sharp eyes. Not a scale, tentacle, or exhaustion in sight. Just skin soft and expressive. "A human. Identify yourselves," the human said in broken galactic standard. "I am Commander Era of the Varellan research ship Starseer," she replied carefully. "We detected the orbital platforms and came to investigate." The human listened, then relayed the information through his wrist device. A few seconds later, he nodded. "You will come with us," he said firmly. "Someone wants to speak with you." Without argument, Era and her team followed the soldiers. They walked for several minutes through dense trees until they reached what looked like a patch of bare ground. But then one of the soldiers pressed something on their forearm and the ground split open. A ramp unfolded, revealing a tunnel descending into darkness. "Incredible," Sylvie breathed. "They've been living underground." They descended into the hidden facility. But it wasn't just a shelter. As they continued, the narrow hallway opened into a fully functional subterranean city. Shops, homes, streets lit with soft overhead lights. Families moved quietly, civilians of all ages. Some stared in open wonder at the alien visitors. Others looked away, cautious or fearful. Eventually they were led into a wide chamber where a tall human woman in a navy blue uniform waited. "I am Commander Amy Torres," she said in fluent galactic standard. "Welcome to Earth." Era blinked. "Earth? That's what we call our planet." Amy gestured for them to sit. Another human, older, gray-haired, and wearing a translator headset, entered and took a seat beside her. "This is Dr. Chris Bennett," Amy said. "He spent years deciphering alien dialects from intercepted radio transmissions." Bennett smiled. "Greetings," he said haltingly in Varellan. "We hoped someone might eventually find us." Era stared. "How do you know our language?" Bennett replied, "We've been listening to your broadcasts for decades." "Learning, watching." Dr. Sylvie spoke up, her voice tight. "You were supposed to be extinct." Amy glanced at Bennett, then back at them. "We chose to vanish. After the last war, we had no desire to keep playing galactic games. We buried ourselves, let the universe think we were dust." "What war?" Era asked quietly. Amy's expression hardened. "The war of consumption. We called our enemies the Devourers. They came from beyond the outer stars, ate everything in their path, worlds, populations, ecosystems. We beat them, but barely, so we vanished." Sylvie's eyes widened. "That war exists in Varellan history, but as a fable. We never knew it was true." "It was very real," Amy said grimly. "And now your presence here changes everything." Even as she spoke, alarms echoed faintly down the tunnel system. Outside the subterranean chamber, the human population was stirring. They all understood something very old was ending. Admiral Zarek sat in the Starseer's command chair once more, his expression stony. He had just sent a priority transmission to the Galactic Council. It would take 3 days to arrive. Once it did, the illusion would shatter. "Sir," Lieutenant Era said from her station, "we just received sensor reports. The Kalara system has gone silent." Zarek looked up sharply. "Explain," no communications. No outbound ships, full blackout. That's the 5th system to go dark in the last month, Zarek said. They're calling it the Void Blight, sir, she said. Entire star. Systems vanishing. Before Zarek could respond, his comms officer interrupted. Incoming signal from the planet. He straightened. On the view screen appeared Commander Amy Torres. Behind her stood Dr. Bennett and several others dressed in military gear. Admiral Zarek, she said calmly. We need to speak. Zarek narrowed his eyes. You're aware of the dark systems? Amy nodded. We know more than you think. The entities doing this? We've faced them before. Far below the surface of Earth, Fleet Admiral Grace Murphy strode through the restored naval yards of Bastion 1. She watched as teams reactivated warships that had once held the stars in fear. How long until the horizon is online? She asked. 6 hours, ma'am, answered Chief Engineer Wren. Weapon systems are still sinking. Engines are green. Murphy nodded. Her silver hair caught the hangar lights. She had scars from the old war. She had buried friends. Now she was ready to finish what they started. Ma'am. Urgent message from Commander Torres. An aide said. Murphy walked briskly to the comms hub. Grace. Amy's face appeared on screen. We need the fleet, all of it. The Void Blight, it's worse than we feared. They're coming again. Only this time. Amy hesitated. They've changed. Murphy's blood ran cold. Then she said what no one else would. Bring the horizon up. Even if she's not ready. Above ground, the skies of Earth would soon darken, not with doom, but with vengeance. Exactly 1 hour later, in a hidden canyon in what had once been western North America, the Earth split open with a rumble. From beneath layers of soil and false rock, a massive warship ascended into the air like a sleeping god returning to battle. USS Horizon was 2 miles long, its surface jet black and bristling with heavy kinetic weaponry. It had been built during humanity's darkest days, forged to do one thing: kill whatever threatened Earth. As the behemoth rose into orbit, alien sensors across the solar system flared. On board the Varellan vessel Starseer, alarms shrieked. Commander. Era, we have something you need to see, Lieutenant Varn said, eyes wide as he stared at the tactical feed. She looked up and gasped. The human warship was emerging from the planet's surface. Like a mechanical leviathan, it dwarfed anything the Council had ever constructed. Weapon ports lined its hull in terrifying symmetry, and energy readings spiked so high the ship's sensors struggled to calculate them. By the stars, she whispered. The myths. They were all true. Aboard the Horizon, Admiral Grace. Murphy stood on the bridge, her hand resting on the console as she surveyed the awakening galaxy. Around her, crew members, most of them descendants of the original war veterans, operated consoles, loaded weapons, and checked launch systems with the focus only inherited fear could create. Admiral, message from General Miles Corrin. The comms officer said, put him on. General Corrin's face appeared, bathed in blue light, surrounded by tactical schematics and defense personnel. Grace, I've been going through the archives, he said. I found something disturbing. What is it? She asked. The Devourers weren't the first threat we encountered. Before them, we fought entities that fed not just on life, but on energy, on physics itself. They warped reality. Are you saying the Void Blight is that same enemy? I think the Devourers were only foot soldiers. These new ones, they're the original threat. And they're back. Murphy's jaw tightened. Admiral, her comms officer called again. Incoming transmission. It's the Galactic Council. New face filled the bridge screen. An alien with blue skin, multifaceted eyes, and a dozen delicate sensory antennae. This is Council Admiral Vexlan, the alien said sharply. We are tracking your vessel. Please explain yourselves. Murphy stood tall. This is Admiral Grace Murphy of the United Earthship Horizon. We are responding to the Void Blight crisis. You're human, Vexlan said, clearly stunned. But humanity was declared extinct 3 centuries ago. We're not extinct, Murphy said flatly. We went into hiding. And now you need us. At the outer edge of the galaxy, a 6th system went dark. No warning. No survivors. Just silence. The first direct engagement happened at Threx, a major trade world on the galactic rim. A bustling metropolis known for diplomacy and commerce. Its population of billions had no experience with warfare. Colonel Turek Monroe stood in the control center of the human ship Ironmark, watching the tactical displays intently. "Colonel," said Sergeant Donna Quinn, "Void Blight ships dropping from hyperspace. 12 confirmed targets, heading straight for the surface." Tarek's gaze hardened. On the screen, the ships came into focus, vessels cloaked in unnatural darkness, their hulls shimmering like liquid shadows. The space around them bent subtly, light distorting like heat haze over pavement. "They're absorbing ambient radiation," Quinn said, horrified. "Status of our fleet?" Tarek asked. "Horizon is in position, along with 3 council cruisers," she replied. "The aliens are requesting engagement orders." Turek opened a channel to Admiral Murphy. Her face appeared, expression grim. "Turek? These aren't the Devourers," he said. "They're worse." "Confirmed," Murphy replied. "I'm picking up energy signatures that defy standard physics. These things aren't just hostile. They're unnatural." On Threx, citizens screamed as evacuation efforts collapsed. The planetary shields flared, then failed. "The enemy opened fire." "Sir," Quinn shouted. "They're not destroying buildings, they're erasing them." Turek watched as black beams carved through the city. Not explosions, just absence. Where the beams struck, things simply vanished. Streets, towers, people, even air. "Engage," Murphy shouted over comms. All ships opened fire. The horizon roared to life. Its kinetic railguns hurled tungsten rods at near-light speed. The Veil. Void ships shuddered as impacts tore through their dark matter armor. But when council ships followed suit with energy weapons, something horrifying happened. The Void ships began to grow stronger. "They're feeding off the plasma blasts." Quinn yelled. "Switch council ships to kinetic mode only," Murphy ordered. The Horizon's guns thundered again. Metal tore metal. 2 Void ships cracked and spun out, breaking apart into black dust. "Ground teams, prepare for deployment," Monroe barked. "We need boots on Threx now." Dropships launched. 20 minutes later, Monroe led 50 human Marines through the war-torn capital. What had been a shining alien city was now a fractured nightmare. Craters opened into voids. Geometry bent at impossible angles. The ground itself seemed uncertain of its purpose. "Stay tight," Monroe shouted. "Eyes on the dark." The enemy ground troops were worse than their ships' black silhouettes in vaguely humanoid forms, moving like afterimages. Whenever they touched something, it ceased to exist. One Marine screamed as a void creature brushed his shoulder. He didn't fall. He vanished, his armor, his gun, even his shadow. Still, the Marines fought. They used pulse rifles loaded with superheated slugs. They used gravity bombs, tactical blades, smoke grenades, every trick in humanity's brutal book. "Sir," Private Orlan Neem called out. "Civilians in that structure. It's collapsing." "Third squad with me," Monroe commanded. "Cover fire now." They charged through the chaos, through smoke, through strange pockets of anti-reality. They saved over 200 Syrian civilians that day. Back in orbit, Murphy studied the battle data. 2 things were clear. First, the Void Blight could be hurt, but only by kinetic force. Second, they were evolving rapidly. Her comms pinged. "Admiral Dr. Kira Leng from Earth Strategic Research Institute is calling." Murphy accepted. "Kira," she said, "what have you got?" Kyra appeared on screen, pale and breathless. "Grace, it's worse than we thought." Murphy didn't speak. She just waited. "They're not a new race. Kira said slowly. They're what the Devourers became. After we banished them beyond known space, they adapted. They fed on dark energy. They evolved into something else. Murphy leaned forward. They're no longer organic? Correct. They exist partially outside spacetime now. They're not just consuming matter anymore. They're consuming reality itself. Murphy turned toward the fleet's strategic display. More void blight. Fleets were approaching from deep space. How many ships do we have ready? She asked her weapons chief. 12 battleships, 30 cruisers, 99 support craft. All kinetic ready. The Council has thousands of ships, the officer added, but most are plasma class. They'll only make the enemy stronger. Murphy opened a channel to Earth. President Corrin answered, looking drawn. Eleanor, Murphy said, we need the full armada, everything, now. Corrin's voice was low. Grace, that's over 3,000 warships, if we launch them all. The galaxy will know humanity is back, Murphy finished. Corrin closed her eyes. If we don't, there won't be a galaxy left, she nodded. You'll have your fleet. Moments later, alarms screamed across all of Earth's underground systems. In North America, in the ice under Antarctica, in the sand beneath the Sahara, massive hidden hangars opened. The USS Judgment, Hammerfall, Ascension, and thousands more began to rise. In a single day, humanity returned to the stars. The sirens that rang in Fleet Admiral Ryland Trask's quarters hadn't sounded in over 3 centuries. He rolled out of bed, grabbed his uniform, and ran through the reinforced corridors of Bastion 7, deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. Lights flashed red, and the computerized voice echoed through every speaker. This is not a drill. All fleet personnel report to battle stations. Awakening protocol is now active. He'd trained for this moment all his life, but never truly believed it would happen. Around him, thousands of crew members moved with purpose, forming the backbone of a sleeping giant. Earth's hidden military complex, carved into the bones of the planet itself. As Trask entered Central Command, someone shouted, Admiral on deck. Report, he snapped, eyes locked on the central display. Void Blight fleets are advancing on the Galactic core, sir, said Captain Malia Keen, his second in command. The combined Council fleet engaged them 6 hours ago. And catastrophic. Losses, half their ships destroyed in the first hour. Their weapons, energy-based, only made the enemy stronger. Trask looked at the holographic projection. Red blots marked enemy fleets spreading like an infection across the galaxy. Council. Blue units were falling back. And in the center, standing like a fortress alone in the dark, was one green marker. Admiral Grace Murphy and the horizon. How many enemy ships? Trask asked. Over 2,000, Keen replied. And more appearing by the hour. He didn't speak. He just nodded once. Sir, said the comms officer. Incoming message from Earth Command. President Corrin appeared on the main screen, flanked by the heads of Earth's remaining governments and joint command staff. Admiral Trask, she said. It's time. Bring up the fleet. Trask's voice was calm. Once we do this, there's no going back. The galaxy will know. The galaxy won't exist if we don't, Corrin replied. He turned to his crew. Send activation codes. Wake every ship. All across Earth, the ancient sleeping colossi awakened. In the Rockies, the Antarctic ice, the Australian outback. The Sahara's red sands massive hangar doors opened, revealing weapons of war untouched by time. The first to rise was the USS Retribution, Trask's flagship. 3 miles long, armored like a drifting fortress, and powered by an engine that could punch a hole through time. On the Starseer, Varellan Admiral Zarek watched in stunned silence. Sir, whispered Lieutenant Era, staring at her console. Sensor count is over 3,000 human warships, and still increasing. Zarek leaned forward, voice barely audible. How many do they have? Too many, she answered. And every one of them looks built for total annihilation. The Retribution took its place at the head of a fleet unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Ships designed solely to win. Ships built to outlast Armageddon. Ships carrying humans who had inherited not peace but preparation. Captain Malia. Keen stood on the Retribution's bridge beside Trask. Through the viewports, the full might of humanity took formation. "Sir," said the comms officer, "we're receiving surrender messages." Trask blinked. From who? The Karsi Dominion, the Vegran Alliance, the Rim Confederation. They're offering to surrender preemptively. Trask's expression darkened. "Tell them we're not here to conquer. We're here to save them." "Some don't believe that," Keen said. "The old legends say we're unbeatable, unstoppable. Maybe we are," Trask answered. "And today, that's exactly what the galaxy needs." In a central communications hub below Earth, Dr. Chris Bennett worked frantically. Holograms of panicked alien ambassadors flickered around him. "Please," he said, "we are not your enemy. We only seek to stop the Void Blight." "But the legends," said one ambassador, a crystalline being with no mouth. "Only when pushed," Bennett replied. "We don't seek war. We just refuse to lose." Above him, the last warship lifted from Earth's gravity. President Corrin stood in her command office, gazing at the screen above. 300 years of silence, she whispered. "Let's hope it was enough." In orbit, Admiral Trask opened a channel to the fleet. "This is Admiral Trask to all vessels. We have lived in shadow for centuries. We chose isolation, peace, safety, but peace without vigilance is illusion. The galaxy has forgotten who we are. Today we remind them." He took a deep breath, eyes locked on the starlight beyond. "We are human. We don't start wars, but we finish them." All ships entered hyperspace at once. The final battle began at the center of the galaxy. Here, a monstrous black hole pulled billions of stars into eternal dance. And now it faced annihilation. Admiral Trask stood on the bridge as the Retribution and over 3,000 warships dropped from hyperspace into the galactic core region. "Sir, detecting main enemy force," said Keen. "Over 5,000 Void Blight vessels." The tactical screen swarmed with red. Each ship warped reality just by existing. Their cores pulsed with dark energy. And at the center of it all hovered one vast shape larger than any vessel humanity had ever recorded. It was the Void Blight's command ship, a moon-sized engine of entropy. "That's the core node," Trask said. "We take that out, we fracture their entire network." "Sir," the comms officer interrupted. "Incoming transmission. Admiral Zarek, Council forces requesting permission to assist." Zarek appeared on screen, his face tight with resolve. "Admiral Trask, we've never fought beside your kind, but we would be honored to do so now." Trask nodded once. "Welcome to the war. Use kinetic rounds only. Energy weapons feed them." "Understood," Zarek said. "We've reconfigured our weapons per your specs." Around the human fleet, Council vessels fell into position. Varellan battleships, carry destroyers, Siren transporters converted into missile platforms. The largest allied fleet in history formed above the galactic core. Then the Void Blight struck. They fired a beam directly into the black hole. The stars around it began to wobble. The gravitational well started to warp. "They're destabilizing the core," Keen shouted. "If they collapse it, the entire galaxy goes with it." "Target everything on that command ship," Trask barked. "Fire at will." The Retribution's guns unleashed kinetic hell. Near light-speed projectiles slammed into the enemy vessel, ripping away chunks of twisted black hull. But the command ship surged forward, absorbing momentum, growing faster, charging its weapons. "Collision course," Keen warned. "Impact in 30 seconds. Trask made the call. All ships ramming speed. "Full burn," hit it with everything. "Sir, that's suicide," Keen said. "If we don't, the galaxy ends." The retribution surged forward. So did Horizon, Ironmark, Eclipse of Dawn, and hundreds more. Then, something unexpected happened. The alien ships followed. Virln, Carrie, Siren, all of them racing forward, inspired by the humans who refused to flee. For the galaxy. Admiral Zarek roared. The combined fleet slammed into the command ship, like a battering ram of gods. The explosion lit up the core like a second sun. When it cleared, the void blight was gone. The survivors began to flee into deep space. 6 months later, Commander Amy Torres stood in the new Galactic Council chamber. Delegates from 100 species listened as she spoke. Humanity disappeared to protect the galaxy. We returned to protect it again. She looked around, her voice firm. We are not myths. We are not monsters. We are what rises when everything else falls.